Basement Hangout.
Bob, today is a special emergency broadcast of the Basement Hangout system. We have to talk about the bombshell UFO whistleblower news that hit the wires on Tuesday. Are you familiar?
No.
You're not?
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay,
actually.
well, that's good. I like that.
You should have prepped me.
But before we do that, we have an announcement to make. Just over a year ago, we had Brian King Sharp from the Sasquatch Odyssey podcast on our show for an interview because we were fans of his show and wanted to pick his brain. You remember that?
Yes.
Subsequently, we did a couple mutual shows, one on crop circles and one on the possibility of giants being a real thing in Earth's past. Leading up to that time and ever since, Bob, Sasquatch Odyssey has been gaining major steam and growing by leaps and bounds. Brian has established his own podcast network named Paranormal World Productions, which includes the flagship Sasquatch Odyssey, as well as the Paranormal Odyssey podcast, the True Crime Odyssey podcast, all of which Brian started and maintained with his partner in crime, Danny. Now, Paranormal World Productions network also includes the Kentucky X-Files podcast, the Weird Encounters podcast, and the reins of Paranormal Odyssey have been placed into the hands of a new host. We've had some discussions with Brian over the past several months, and Bob, it is my pleasure to announce that the Basement Hangout is now also part of the Paranormal World Productions network.
Nice.
In terms of content and format, for our traditional Basement Hangout listeners, nothing will change, but this will open up new avenues of collaboration and networking opportunities, and we are humbled and delighted to join the network. With us tonight is the man himself, Brian King Sharp. Brian, welcome to the Hangout.
What's up, guys? It's good to be back on the Hangout. I love hanging out in the basement with you guys, man.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. And again, thank you for bringing us into your network.
Absolutely, man.
Tell us a little bit about how that network is growing.
Well, it grows, it seems, every single day, because ultimately what this is all about, you and I have talked about it. We've all had conversations on air and off the air about collaborations with other people. That's what it's really all about for me. I mean, I've said it so many times. I get to do this as a full-time job. I get to do what I love to do, which is podcast. But the real thing that I love the most about all of this is meeting the people. The people truly are what I enjoy the most. And, obviously we hit it off when we collaborated a year or so back when I came on your show. And then you guys have come on a couple of times. And it's just one of those things. You fit the niche as far as what we're looking for with the network. It's like-minded people who approach this the right way, do it in a professional manner, and have fun. That's the ultimate goal, is to have fun doing all of this stuff. Everything we talk about is subjective for the most part. So if you can have a little fun along the way and talk about some cool stuff, then I see no harm in that for sure.
This is the way.
Brian, will you stick around with us while we discuss the UFO whistleblower?
Absolutely, man. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Awesome. So 2 episodes ago, Bob, we discussed Dr. Gary Nolan's interview at the SALT conference.
I remember that.
He said that alien tech and UFOs have been here for a long time, and that the U.S. is actively working on reverse engineering the retrieved technology from these craft. He also made it clear that the NDAA legislation signed into law by Congress provided for whistleblowers to come forward to testify in front of Congress without fear of prosecution. And you and I were amazed at that. We didn't realize that the legislation included that. Remember that?
And they had to come on the weekend, I remember.
Well, I don't know if they have to. It just kind of happened that way.
Okay, so is it the same whistleblower or what?
Well, that's part of the story, I think. So Dr. Gary Nolan even mentioned that someone from the intel community had indeed come forward recently and had Washington buzzing in a major way. And Nolan himself came across as very credible and said he was 100% sure of his claims. And I can remember you and I were talking afterwards and you were like, damn, that guy was good.
Yeah, and I was like, why haven't I seen this anywhere?
Right. So, and I was wondering, who is this that came forward and
so now it's out
and testified to Congress? Last episode we released on Tuesday, which was yesterday. And it was about the NASA panel that has come together to discuss their findings in UAP or UFO investigations so far. And in attendance was Kirkpatrick from the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, you recall.
Mm-hmm.
Kirkpatrick said, "We are seeing metallic, sometimes translucent, orbs all over the world, which can stand still in the air or travel at Mach speeds and perform gravity and physics-defying maneuvers, all without any discernible propulsion mechanism," right? All over the world, the U.S. government is seeing these things, and they don't know what they are. And then NASA ultimately says, well, we need more data, and there's no evidence that these anomalies are extraterrestrial in nature. And you and I were kind of like, what the fuck?
What the hell?
That doesn't even make any sense. So we aired that episode Tuesday morning. Literally 2 hours later, Ross Coulthart, remember Ross Coulthart?
Our boy, yes, I do.
We did an interview with him, I think it was 2 years ago now, or a year and a half. It was October 2021. And he told us that he was in discussions with U.S. government intelligence representatives who said that the U.S. government is in possession of alien craft and is attempting to reverse engineer it. So he just released a short video clip of an interview he's done, which is releasing this Sunday in full.
Where is it releasing? Is it online? Or?
It's that news something online.
Newsmax?
No, not Newsmax. News Nation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So he is an independent, but he's doing this for News Nation. So he dropped that bombshell yesterday.
What was the fucking bombshell? I don't understand.
Well, I'll tell you. And again, 2 hours after we released our episode. So I felt we've got to come on right now and discuss this. So what's going on is that a U.S. intelligence officer testified in front of Congress about these covert programs where they have alien craft and they are trying to reverse engineer them. Ross Coulthart interviewed him and is airing that interview.
Oh, shit.
His name is David Gersh. He handed over reams of documents to Congress that the U.S. is in possession, like I said, of crafts of non-human origin, and they are actively working to reverse engineer it and has been doing so for decades.
So is he in witness protection now, or is he like safe?
He has filed a lawsuit because he is starting to get retribution, according to him, from the intel community against him.
Like backlash.
For coming forward.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no shit.
So we can connect the dots, Bob, I think, and assume that this whistleblower, David Grush.
Is that his real name?
Is the guy that Dr. Gary Nolan was talking about, who testified in front of Congress. Brian, have you heard any of this stuff?
No, this is all news to me. I'm taking notes.
Okay, so it's funny, though, because, this came out, again, it was a bombshell.
Where did you see it? Because I know about the Canadian smoke in our air, but I don't know this.
I'm gonna play it for you, and this is one of the things, right? So a U.S. intelligence officer, high ranking, he was in the Air Force and one of the other major intelligence agencies, I forget the name now, the one that deals with satellites. And he comes forward, testifies in front of Congress, gives reams of documents that say that they're doing this. It gets announced, and the mainstream media and the public at large reacted something like this. I mean,
at least they weren't laughing, I guess. Right?
Because nobody's even heard it. It's amazing. The Washington Post, let me change my screen here so you guys can see this.
I'm glad Brian doesn't know either, so it's not like I'm an idiot and not informed.
No, I'm a lost ball in high weeds, man.
So you should be seeing my screen here. This is today's New York Times. So we've got something about, I don't even know what that means. Destroyed dam in Ukraine. We've heard about that. That's a tragedy. Something about, I don't even know, again, what that is. Here's the Canada fires you were talking about. Nothing about UFOs or alien craft being reverse engineered. Here's the Wall Street Journal. SEC widens crypto crackdown. PGA Tour. The dam in Ukraine.
I mean, the PGA Tour thing is huge. It merged with Live Golf, which is like the Saudi-backed fucking tour. So it's
bigger
really
than aliens visiting our planet for decades.
No, but that is crazy ass news because they're basically accepting Saudi money that's like dirty.
Well, if the aliens come kill us, none of that will matter.
No, it won't.
The Washington Post, Ukrainian dam, Ukrainian pipeline.
So who blew up the dam? Ukraine?
Probably. I mean, don't you think that's probably the most obvious?
Brian, did Ukraine blow it up?
I would assume so, yes.
Because it hurts Russia more, but it also hurts Ukraine. I don't know.
So like I said, I mean, I'm just kind of flabbergasted. Maybe people don't think it's real. Maybe the mainstream media is waiting for the full report that comes out this Sunday. But to hear this, I mean, imagine, Brian, if you will, that somebody videos a Sasquatch in the wild and provides information that the U.S. government has been farming Sasquatch. I don't know. And, you know, it comes out and then you hear. What would you think about that?
Well, here's the thing about that, right? I think there's a couple of things going on here. First and foremost, I don't know what it is about the UAP phenomenon, but there's been so much that has been talked about, at least over the last 5-6 years, with disclosure and other things. I think at this point, it may be one of those things where people are just so immune to hearing this kind of stuff. They're like, yeah, you know, this guy's either crazy or maybe he does have something, but who cares?
Right.
They've been talking about it forever. We kind of knew it already. It's, you know, is there really a there kind of thing?
So I agree with you on the maybe this guy's crazy. Maybe he's coming out trying to make a name for himself. Maybe the information isn't real. But if we were able to take a leap that the information is real and we were able to say that aliens are confirmed to be visiting, that the U.S. government knows about it, that they have crashed tech, I mean, it changes the paradigm of pretty much everything.
And I definitely agree. And how are we going to get to that proof, though? Where do you think that's going to come from? You think it's going to come from what he's turned over to Congress?
Yeah. So supposedly the documents that he's turned over to Congress are top secret and contain communications and information about the U.S. government programs.
So big ups to Congress, I guess, because they're like give him immunity and.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it might ruin his life.
Well, yeah, he's suing the government because of that. He's getting reprisals. But like we discussed last week, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, they're going to just destroy him and it's going to be swept under the rug and we're going to continue forward as always. So anyway, let's play the clip of what was released. Again, it's just minor clips so far. The full report by Ross Coulthart on News Nation is going to be released on Sunday. And Ross Coulthart actually tweeted today.
So June 10th.
Yeah. So he tweeted today that what David Grush will reveal this Sunday is shocking and demands action from Congress.
So shouldn't they have gotten a group of people together before they're going to out this dude and then his life's going to be destroyed possibly?
Well, but Congress is supposed to be protecting him. Now, I don't know if that means he's got
but if
24/7 armed guards or what.
If you're one of the other dudes waiting to disclose, then hopefully he's not made an example of
Yeah, that's true. Well, they're probably waiting in the wings. Actually, you know what? Before I play that, let's listen to what Ross Coulthart told us on our show.
18 months ago or what?
Yeah, it was October 2021. And this is the intro to that episode on our show. Let's take a listen to this.
I was told by people who purport either to have worked or are working on what they all euphemistically refer to as the program, that the United States is in possession of recovered non-human technology. What blew me away, I just kept on finding stuff that just made my journalistic hackles rise. References to recovered flying saucers in Nepal and Afghanistan. references to an elite unit flying around the world recovering space objects. The US government years ago recovered non-terrestrial material, and that it's been attempting to back-engineer that material.
Okay, so now fast forward again 18 months later, here's Ross Coulthart with his UAP whistleblower who has now testified.
It's actually like 20 months.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's October.
Thank you. Thank you for the math.
You're welcome.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
If you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
I've got to be blunt about this. Yeah. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
So, thoughts?
I hope he has someone behind him that supports him. His life's not ruined.
Brian?
Yeah, I can tell you just from what I'm seeing, and I'm certainly no expert. I did some interrogation training as a cop, and if I were talking to this dude, I see nothing that indicates any kind of deception whatsoever. So he looks like he's telling the truth to me, and if he's got the stuff to back it up that he's turned over, then it's certainly a huge, huge deal if what he's saying is true.
That's a really interesting take, because even though I'm pumping this and I'm talking about how amazing it is, for some reason, and I'm not trained, I was not a law enforcement professional, I am not educated in any psychology or anything, but something about him just rubs me a little bit the wrong way, and I can't put my finger on it.
Because he's smiling? Or?
I don't know if it's his smile, his smirk, his mannerisms.
He's got to be nervous as hell.
Right, that's true. That's absolutely true. Brian, in your experiences, could that account for it?
Yeah, I think it could be nerves, and it could be the fact that he knows that, as he said, he's saying this at great personal risk, and he's probably in the back of his mind thinking, most people aren't going to believe me, and the ones who do are probably going to want to kill me. So
yeah,
there's a lot going on there. But like I said, and I could be completely off base, but he looks like a person who is telling the truth, and he looks a little pissed off about it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, he does. Maybe that's what's rubbing
you the wrong way.
Natural
reaction for somebody in his position to be in, because what he said is very true. If this is accurate and this is what's happening, and all, as he put it, all the data points are pointing to this in that direction, people have been lied to for a very, very long time, and the government of the United States is behind it. So, and he's a part of that machine. And when you're a cog in that machine and you've got the balls to come out and say some of the things he's saying, I think there's a lot there. And, again, if he's telling the truth, it's definitely a huge deal.
Yeah. So it is interesting though that you guys have a completely different take than I did, a different impression. I, in the bottom of my heart, hope that he's telling the truth.
So why would he not tell the truth? It's going to fuck his whole life.
There's a lot of theories out there. You can call them conspiracy theories if you want, but imagine that he's part of, as they call it, a psyop to fool. Let's say that it turns out that what he's saying is nonsense. Does that put the nail in the coffin?
So he's part of the disinformation he's even referencing.
Potentially. And I know Lou Elizondo, who's, the biggest guy before him, who supposedly ran one of these, government agencies. ATIP, you got it. A lot of people think that he's a disinformation agent for some reason. I don't know.
People are always going to think that.
The other thing is, could U.S. intelligence be doing this to fool our adversaries into thinking we have alien tech, so don't fuck with us? Maybe I'm going out on a limb there. But
I don't think we need that, though.
Well, we don't know for sure. Do we?
I don't know. So Putin won't fucking blow us up is what you're saying?
So, but I do like, Brian, that you brought up the body language. Yes, that is what I'm saying, potentially. Brian, I do like that you brought up the body language thing, because I actually was looking at that. When I watched that video, I wanted it to be true so bad, but something about the body language rubbed me the wrong way. So this guy is a YouTube psychologist who analyzes body language. Apparently, he's a PhD. I've never heard him before. His name's Dr. G.
YouTube psychologist.
Well, if he's a YouTube psychologist, automatically.
Yeah. Well, let's put it another way. He is a psychologist who now has a YouTube channel.
Okay. That's better.
That changes everything. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of a long video. It's this damn frog in my throat. It's like
it's a hair from a biscuit.
It's almost 9 minutes long. I'm not saying we need to watch the whole thing, but let's see what this guy has to say. And hopefully we can get some volume.
Language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the body language of the UFO whistleblower, David Grush. David Grush is an Air Force veteran and a former U.S. intelligence officer. He claims that the U.S. has intact UFOs, as well as discovered bodies of pilots of non-human origin. The nature of these claims are very different than many of the body language analyses I do, but it seems that a lot of people are interested in this, so let's get started so I can tell you what I'm observing as far as body language goes. Before we get started, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to watch now is part of an exclusive interview with News Nation. We're going to look closely at his body language, and I do want you to keep in mind, he was part of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, so he does have legitimacy. So before the interview even begins, something you're going to notice is that his lips are pursed. Now, what this can mean is it can mean lack of confidence. It can also mean stress, anxiety, or concern. Now, he's getting ready to do an interview on television. He's getting ready to talk about what he says are government secrets. That could make somebody feel any of those ways, but I just want you to keep in mind how this is starting.
Brian, let me just ask you, pursed lips, is that something that you looked for when you were doing your field work?
Certainly one of those indicators, but again, you got to keep in mind everything this guy's going to talk about is going to be a totality of the circumstances. And I'm glad he even alluded to the fact this guy's nervous. He's about to talk about some real shit on national television. And of course he's going to be nervous. And that is a nervous reaction for a lot of people to do. And anybody can take a video and do a still. I guarantee you somebody could do a still of anything that we're talking about right now and make us look like complete assholes, and make it look like we're not telling the truth, and put together an entire video on our body language. So
right.
I'm always a little bit apprehensive about that stuff. But yes, that was a long answer to a short question.
I agree with you, and I'm made to look like an asshole pretty much every day.
And this looks like a different angle than maybe it was a quick shot, but I don't remember like up under the lights.
Yeah, so I didn't have this video in what we played, but this was kind of like as they're preparing right before they start recording. All right, let's go.
On secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the U.S. defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
So we're seeing a slight smile. That could be a nervous smile. It could be socially appropriate behavior, or it could be that he is preparing to deceive. We're going to have to see which one it is.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
So right now he's nodding his head along with yes, as he's acknowledging that he's trusted with secrets. He's U.S. intelligence, so of course he's been trusted with secrets. I'd be shocked if he wasn't trusted with secrets. So that is true. And I want you to keep in mind that he does nod his head when he's saying yes, and sometimes he shakes his head when saying no. This can be very important. It sounds like a small point, but it's something that's going to be very consequential as we continue to watch this interview. Let's just watch it again.
Trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grush sitting down with award-winning investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation.
The end of your time on the UAP task force.
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
So we're seeing the pursing of the lips. We're seeing the corners of the mouth go back. This is oftentimes associated with anxiety, concern, things like that. Now, once again, he's saying things that he says are secrets, so maybe that's no shock. But I just want you to keep track of all the little body language pieces that we're seeing. Okay, let's watch it again.
Was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will,
Now, this is where it starts to be questionable as to whether or not his head shakes are consistent with what he's saying. So watch this again.
Human origin technical vehicles.
Now, right now his head's sort of bobbing, so you can't really say it's nodding or shaking at this point.
Vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
All right, so he was shaking his head, call it spacecraft if you will. Now, maybe he was doing that for emphasis, or maybe he was suggesting no as he's talking about spacecraft. Let's keep watching.
Non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me.
Now we're starting to see head shakes as he's talking about this, about current and former senior officers coming to him, that starts to seem a little bit more like he's not agreeing with what he's saying. Let's watch this again.
I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it.
When he says, I've never heard of it.
Part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard.
Him arching his eyebrows like that is consistent with him talking about something that did surprise him.
Heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task.
So after he said that they provided me documents and hard proof, he did a hard swallow. Oftentimes we associate that with very significant amounts of stress. Does that necessarily mean he's lying? No, but we do oftentimes see it with deceitful behavior because people feel anxious after saying that. Maybe he feels anxious for another reason. But I can say pretty conclusively that hard swallow after saying that would be associated with stress.
So I'm going to do a meta-analysis, okay? He's analyzing him. I'm going to analyze the psychologist. I've always thought to myself, the reason I will never go to a psychologist is because they just tell you shit you already know. And so far, he's telling us shit we already know.
He's mad stressed.
He's stressed. This could be a lie. It might not be a lie. It could be the truth. He's telling things that are stressful. So, thank you, sir. Shall we continue?
I mean, he knows this can ruin his life. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Like he's bobbing his head, I don't know. Whatever.
So he looks to me like he knows no one's going to fucking believe him, but it's true.
Okay.
And they provided me documents and other proof that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
If you're telling us the truth, Everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical. And
so for our listeners, they couldn't see that, obviously. The video paused and he threw in a lips show contempt. Did you see that?
It was so quick, I didn't.
I'm not sure what that was.
So what does that mean, Chad? What is contempt? Lips show contempt?
Like anger at the question.
I think he's fucking angry anyway.
You are saying intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points.
All right, now, this was from behind, but watch this. He says, absolutely, the data points. Just watch his head during that.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points.
Absolutely, the data points. So that was a pretty clear head shake as he said that.
Empirically, that we're not alone, yeah.
The lip pursing again. Once again, that goes back to anxiety and stress. Does that mean he's lying? No, not necessarily. We oftentimes look for that in lying and deceit because people are stressed when they lie or when they're being deceptive. It could also be that it's stressful talking about or revealing secrets.
Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not,
So he's closing his eyes as he's saying this. I talk a lot about people closing their eyes when they're talking. We oftentimes do that when we're thinking about something that we don't like. Now, does that mean that he's lying? Not necessarily. Sometimes it can be used as a way to deceive. It could just mean that he's thinking about something he doesn't want to think about or something he doesn't like. But it's a behavior worth noting. Let's watch him say this again.
sometimes you encounter dead pilots.
This psychologist is always on the fence.
Believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And as we saw, there was a pretty vigorous head shake as he said, it's true. Let's watch that again.
As fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And the corners of his mouth are tight again, which once again suggests stress or anxiety.
So I've got to be blunt about this. Yeah. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
So now you're seeing him vigorously shake his head no. So you might be asking yourself, well, if he's answering this and showing this body language here, doesn't that contradict what you were saying a second ago? Well, not necessarily, because something that we see, and we see this on trials all the time, because normally I'm analyzing trials, is that when people are asked a question directly and they want to have a very strong point about it, they can have body language consistent, even if it's not the truth. So they can say no and shake their head very vigorously. It's that it occasionally spills out. Occasionally they don't hide it well.
Everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. Mm-hmm. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And
once again, there were the eyes closed. I am for real. Now, that could just mean that he's stressed talking about this. It could also be a sign of deception.
Is this guy ever going to take a position?
Decide what you think it is. So what conclusions can we come to after watching this interview? Well, he definitely had a lot of stress. He definitely showed a lot of concern. There were times where it suggested a lack of confidence. Does that mean he's being deceptive or lying? Not necessarily, but what it does mean is that it brings forth a lot of stress and anxiety, something that we
no shit. I'm going to hire this guy.
That's not the only reason people show that. What I find harder to get past is him shaking his head no when saying things in the affirmative. So do I believe that he's privy to information that suggests that we have non-human pilots that we've found? I'm not convinced yet. I definitely want to see more, but I'm open to seeing and hearing more about this as we continue. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of this. I'm really curious what y'all think and what body language y'all noticed. But before we wrap up, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right.
Bob, this is our new resident expert on body language. He's always 50-50. I'm coming to you, Brian. I want your body language expertise. This guy was a waste. I'm sorry.
I'm not necessarily going to have any kinds of opinions necessarily on anything.
Yeah.
No, here's the bottom line for me. I've talked to a lot of people who did a lot of lying, right? Most of the people, unfortunately, that I dealt with in the course of my daily career and my 16 years in law enforcement told a lot of lies because they were in stressful situations. They were trying to avoid taking responsibility for what they were doing. They were trying not to go to jail, a whole litany of reasons, right? And, you know, I'm joking, but this guy is he's not taking a stance because it's almost impossible for him to take a stance on any of that stuff. Because here's the thing that we don't have, and I think it's important for us to all really understand. we don't have a baseline for this David Grush guy, right?
Right. Good point.
We haven't seen 15 or 20 interviews of him to compare side by side to what he's saying now when he's talking about mundane stuff. Yeah, we just found a satellite that crashed the Earth on, from 1920, and just mundane stuff that doesn't have anything to do with aliens or crashed craft, right? So if you don't have a baseline for what this guy looks like when he's talking about his golf game or what, I just swallowed really hardly. I may be nervous about what I'm saying.
Well, that means you're either really nervous or you're lying or you're telling the truth.
Or not necessarily stressed me out. But so if you don't have him talking about his kids or his golf game, and then you compare that side by side, he may be a really animated guy. See, I'm shaking my head no as I'm talking because I'm getting a little animated because I'm a little amped up about our resident expert who just really didn't take any stance on anything. So yeah, I mean, it's easy to say all of those things. Everything he pointed out is a possibility of him being deceptive. It is something that happens in deceptive people. But do people who aren't being deceptive every single day in general mundane conversations? Absolutely 100% they do. So in and of themselves, it really means nothing in the context of what we're talking about, except for this dude is on television with the reporter basically pointing in his face saying, everybody in America is looking at you right now. Would that make you a little nervous? Maybe would you purse your lips? Maybe would your lips show a little discontent or whatever the word was? Contempt, excuse me. But yeah, I think he looks like a guy who's telling the truth to me.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
And he's wigged the fuck out because he does. I'm sure it makes him feel sick to his stomach to even what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, you guys have swayed me. My take is, do I believe in the conspiracy theory that the U.S. intelligence agencies are doing this to proactively conduct a psyop to convince our foes that we have alien tech, therefore don't fuck with us? No, I don't believe that. Do I believe that this guy is going to risk his entire career to come out and maybe write some books based on this? I guess that's possible. But if he was already high level in the intelligence agency, it's not like he needs, money necessarily. I assume he had a decent salary and all that kind of stuff. Why would you put yourself out there and make wild claims that the intelligence agencies could just come out and say completely false? And here's documentation to show that it's false. So, for me, it's hard for me to fathom somebody coming out and doing this. And also Ross Coulthart, I have a lot of respect for him. He's a true investigative journalist.
Award-winning,
exactly, of the old sort. So, I'm crossing my fingers that this is real, because if it turns out that it's fake, like I said earlier, I think it puts the nail in the coffin of the UAP disclosure issue. I think nobody's going to take it seriously ever again, no matter who comes out and says anything. And that would be a real shame. It's like what you have to deal with sometimes, Brian, where you have hoaxers on the Bigfoot issue and they make all the real Bigfoot shit look like shit.
But that's been happening with UFOs, UAPs, with all the paranormal.
Yeah, that's true. So
yeah, it's definitely something that happens throughout. But I go back to what you guys were just saying. At the end of the day, you have to take a look at what this guy has to gain versus what he has to lose, and weigh the two options and weigh the two side by side to say, what is his motivation here? If he's not trying to be a stand-up guy and tell Americans what they should have been told from their government for decades, what does he have to gain from that? Well, he'll go down in history possibly as the guy who did that, and he can stand on his own merits and say, I bucked the system. I did what was right. I am a whistleblower. Call me what you want, but I did the right thing. Versus what I can't even fathom what the motivation would be, personal motivation would be for him to come out and risk everything that he's worked for. And I'm sure a six-figure plus salary and a nice pension and retirement and security for his family beyond his years to just come out and make some kind of crazy ass claims about UFOs and dead aliens. It just doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. The only thing that would make sense, as what you were saying, Chad, is if he is a plant from the government and somehow he's taken a fall here as the patsy to say, okay, we've got to stop this UAP disclosure crap. So we got to come up with this, put it out there. And once this is debunked and we prove that you are crazy and none of this stuff really happened, nobody's ever going to take it seriously again. That could be the motivation. I just don't see it.
Right.
I just don't.
So hopefully he didn't like write on the reams of paper himself in like crayon that he turned in.
That would be bad. So I do have one more theory from the Alex Wing Jones. Excuse me. The Alex Jones wing.
I was like, what the fuck, Alex Wing?
The Alex Jones wing of the conspiracy theory. Yes, thank you, Alex. There is this conspiracy called Project Blue Beam. Have you heard of this? This is the idea that the U.S. government, it's taken many forms over the years, but the current form is that the U.S. government and the United Nations are going to work together to fake a alien invasion of UFOs to bring the entire world together and cause the true one world government, aka the New World Order. Because now we're not fighting against each other, we're fighting against the alien agenda. And use that as the reason to basically enslave us under this New World Order. Yes, thank you, Alex. So I don't know if I buy that one either.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Didn't Ronald Reagan say something about that during one of his United Nations speeches? If that famous speech is, how would our differences disappear if there was a threat from outside of our world, kind of thing?
Yeah, he did.
I don't see that. That's a really far out there conspiracy theory. Again, I've said it on my show and I've said it as a guest on other shows. People would be very surprised what the government don't know and what they're incapable of doing. And organizing anything on that kind of a scale, I think, is just beyond the pale for certainly our government. And when you start throwing in world governments outside of ours, I don't see that.
So do you think they're capable of hiding UFO craft, UAP craft, and pilots?
Oh, absolutely.
Like flying all over the world, retrieving them.
I definitely believe that. And some people that have sort of poo-pooed that kind of conspiracy, quote unquote, conspiracy theory over the years have pointed to that. So they throw out the red herrings of, the government can't do this or they can't do that. It would be impossible to do that on such a large scale and so many people involved. Somebody would come forward. Well, people have come forward. Bob Lazar came forward and look where that got him. I mean, he was a huge, in my opinion, whistleblower back in the day. I don't know how you guys feel. Oh, I swallowed really hard again. I don't know how you guys feel about Bob Lazar, but I believe his story. And I really didn't until I saw that documentary they did a couple of years ago. And there was some weird shit that happened in that documentary that really convinced me that the dude's telling the truth.
Yeah, I believe Bob Lazar. I think Chad's on the other side of the fence.
Well, did you listen to that one podcast
I did, but I still believe him.
Yeah. Even though he put forward all that evidence about how he was up to a lot of shenanigans basically his whole life.
Everyone's up to a lot of shenanigans when you're young, okay?
Yeah, but
I'm not going to discount Bob Lazar because he was like...
Those weren't shenanigans like smoking a little weed. That was like conning people for a living.
Yeah, because he's like a genius.
Okay, well...
So when you're young and dumb and you're like half genius that time, he was trying to make money. Like it was a prostitution ring or something.
I'm on the fence with Bob Lazar. If you asked me to pick a side, put a gun to my head, said you have to pick one or the other, I would probably have to go with Bob Lazar's full of shit.
Yeah, I knew that. That's why I said you're on the side of the fence.
Based on the information in that podcast that
But dude, he was young and dumb. Maybe he was dating a hooker or a prosty, and then he ended up... So maybe he met So I don't know, Brian, if there's some stuff that's come out about Bob Lazar when he was younger...
It's not just about dating a prostitute. It's about conning for a living for quite a while.
Right, but okay.
That's a bad way to start.
I'm thinking he started dating this girl. She ends up being a prostitute when they get to their house. Next thing you know, he's running the whole ring or has the house, like, because he's smart. I don't discount him because of that stupid mistake he made as a young man.
Yeah, like I said, that's not the only reason. There was a lot more information that I can't recall right now. And,
well, I have to listen to the podcast you're talking about because I haven't heard any of this. So I don't want to be out there beating the Bob Lazar drum without all the information. So I definitely want to look into that myself.
But it also negatively impacted his life. Like he said, he wishes he never would have come out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you would say.
Yeah, but does he make money off it? I don't think he made like a shit ton of money off the
So
documentary.
again, in that podcast, there were indications that he did make some money. He didn't get like wealth.
Well, yeah, of course.
He didn't get independently wealthy, but he was making some money.
So why not get independently wealthy if that's his goal? Because he's pretty smart.
It's all conjecture. I don't know, right? He could be absolutely on the up and up. So I'm not, like I said, I'm mostly on the fence. It's just if you held a gun to my head and made me choose a
Which
side.
I will, motherfucker.
Do not do that. All right.
So what do you think about this guy? What do you think about this David Grush guy? Do you think he's telling the truth? I mean, what does your gut tell you? I know you had some issues at the beginning of the episode that maybe Chad and I have swayed you from, but where are you on your gut with whether this guy's on the up and up or not?
Man, I want to believe, and I'm a little nervous that my desire to believe will sway me towards believing him.
That's why you're trying not to believe?
But I can't, no. I cannot help the gut reaction that I had when I watched this for the first time. And there was something about his body language that just didn't seem right to me. But all that said, right now, I think I am believing. And I can't wait for the full interview on Sunday, which, like I said, Ross Coulthart said is going to be shocking.
So I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. So his ass is puckered the whole interview. And he's upset. He's been lied to in the government agency. He's on the UAP, whatever the fuck project, and he's not being told about another part of the government that knows a bunch of shit.
Yes.
He's pissed. His ass is puckered. His spouse maybe supports him or not, who knows? Correct. And his life may be fucking ruined. So that's why I'm thinking he's showing contempt, like mouth actions.
Well, the contempt mouth thing was not part of my consideration.
But you can tell he didn't even believe it in the beginning, and he doesn't even want to fucking believe it now, I think. But he's like, this is what it fucking is, and he's shaking his head no, because he's like...
Well, you're 100% convinced.
I mean, why...
That I can see.
Also, I'm thinking he's like, before in the pre-interview, he's like, Ross Coulthart, they said there'd be more of us, and he's the only one fucking getting pushed out. I mean, you would think you'd come in numbers, not just one, the first guy that went on a Sunday.
Like I said, I have a lot of faith in Ross Coulthart, so I'm hoping against hope that this is the real deal.
I would grab a colleague if I was going to out. Like he may end up living in Russia with Snowden.
You don't know who you can trust at that point.
True. But you would think when I did before my Congress disclosure, I'd be like, are there more of us? Or is it only me? You know what I mean? Because if they fuck his life, then they could bury it, and then it's the end.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that NDAA legislation that included protection.
Yeah. So what is that though? So there's black projects who could do whatever the fuck they want. That's what I'm saying.
No, but what it is, so I can't speak towards his like physical safety. Like if you were to believe that the intelligence agencies are going to send the American version of James Bond to assassinate him in his bed or something, I don't know about any of that stuff. What it really does is, if you are read into a top secret program, SCI, compartmentalized information that you only know if you need to know. And even Lazar talked about this, how the guy working on this aspect only knew that. And the guy working on this aspect only knew that. And the two of them didn't know how the two came together because they're only read into their compartment. If you're read into one of those programs and you divulge the information publicly, you can be prosecuted and put in jail for a very long time. So that legislation prevents that from happening for anybody who comes forward about black projects related to the reverse engineering of alien craft. And that's why he's now able to come out.
So who did that? What congressperson?
It was, so amazingly, this is one of the few bipartisan things that comes out of Washington. It was several Republicans, including Rubio, and several Democrats, I don't remember any of the names, who put the legislation into the NDAA and all agreed on it. So they can't fucking,
blame
do
one
whatever
side.
the hell else we need them to do. But when it comes to UFOs, they seem to be able to get bipartisan. So at least that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
damn.
somewhere. I'm sure buried somewhere in the bill. They all got mansions built on top of that with the funding, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, it's earmarked.
Bridges to nowhere. All right. Well, that's our special report of this evening. Stay tuned on Sunday, which I'm sure we will talk about next week. We do have another interview this evening. Another targeted individual is coming on, but that will air later in the week. Brian, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And like I said in the beginning, we are honored to be part of the Paranormal World Productions Network. And hopefully we'll be seeing you at the conference in Tennessee.
Yeah, that would be awesome, guys. We're glad to have you a part of the family, and it was an honor being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference, yes?
Yes.
Awesome. So
Should be
as
fun.
you know, Brian, words of wisdom are a thing. So what you got for us tonight?
Don't rat out the government. You'll wake up dead.
Well, that's definitely words of wisdom to live by, Bob. What do you have?
So mine are for David Gulch, that you may be now a targeted individual. I hope not, but maybe that's why he's so wigged the fuck out, because he knows the power of the fucking government.
Maybe they're sending the microwaves to him now, or the frequencies or whatever.
I just hope he makes it and like isn't suicide did.
Yeah. Okay, well, good words of wisdom there too, I think. My words of wisdom are go to paranormalworldproductions.com. Check out all of the podcasts that are available to you, hours and hours and hours of content. Sign up for all the stuff. Just do it. Basement Hangout.
Ow.
The Basement Hangout.